Christmas Day, 1989. Cameras are rolling, soldiers are tense, and the world is watching. In a cold Romanian courtyard, a dictator who once ruled with an iron fist now stands trembling before a firing squad. Within seconds, gunfire erupts, broadcast live, ending a reign that once seemed unbreakable. But to understand how the most powerful man in Romania ended up facing his own soldiers, we have to go back, just a few days earlier, to a nation on the edge of collapse. It was the final winter of the 1980s. Snow blanketed Bucharest like a warning from above. Streets were silent, shops empty, and the glow of streetlights flickered against the cold, cracked walls of apartment blocks. Inside those walls, people whispered in fear, because even the walls were rumored to listen. Everywhere you looked, on billboards, in classrooms, even in homes, the same face stared back. Nicolae Ceaușescu. For 24 years, he had ruled Romania not as a president, but as a god king. His portrait hung beside the national flag. His speeches played endlessly on the radio. His voice echoed through factories demanding harder work for less food. Electricity was rationed. Heat was scarce. Bread was measured by the gram. People went hungry in silence, too afraid to speak, too broken to hope. Yet Ceaușescu believed he was loved. Surrounded by loyalists and yes-men, he saw only applause, never the truth. Outside his palace gates, however, the air was changing. All across Eastern Europe, communist regimes were collapsing one by one. The Berlin Wall had fallen. The Soviet Union was weakening. With Ceaușescu, he refused to loosen his grip. He doubled down, ordering parades of loyalty, punishing whispers of dissent, and convincing himself he was untouchable. He didn't see it yet, but beneath the silence, a storm was building. And when it finally broke, it would sweep away everything he had built, including his life. It began far from Bucharest, in a small industrial city few outside Romania had ever heard of, Timișoara. There in mid-December 1989, a pastor named Laszlo Tokay stood before his congregation and did the unthinkable. He spoke the truth. He condemned the dictatorship. He called for freedom. He dared to say out loud what millions only whispered in private. The regime immediately ordered his eviction. But when officers arrived to remove him, something unexpected happened. Hundreds of ordinary citizens gathered outside his church. Old men, mothers, students, linking arms, refusing to move. At first, the police thought it would disperse like every other protest before it. But by nightfall, the crowd had swelled into the thousands. They were no longer just protecting a pastor. They were protecting their voice. Ceaușescu's secret police opened fire. Bullets ripped through the freezing air. Bodies fell onto the streets. The snow turned red. The government tried to bury the truth, calling it an isolated incident. But they couldn't bury the images. Smuggled footage told the real story. Children shot, families crying, soldiers turning away in shame. Those images spread like wildfire, passed hand to hand, whispered in secret, carried across borders. The illusion of Ceaușescu's perfect Romania was shattered overnight. And for the first time in decades, the people who had bowed their heads in silence raised them high, shouting one word that echoed through the streets: freedom. 4 days later, Ceaușescu tried to prove that he was still in control. He ordered a massive rally in Bucharest, a grand display of loyalty broadcast live across the nation. Thousands of workers were forced into the streets. Loudspeakers blasted pre-recorded cheers. State TV cameras rolled, waiting for the dictator's entrance. On the morning of December 21st, Ceaușescu stepped out onto the balcony of the Central Committee building. He smiled, waved, and began to speak. Below him, tens of thousands of faces stared back, pale, blank, unmoving. He praised himself, promised a glorious future, and boasted about Romania's great achievements. Then from somewhere deep within the crowd, a scream cut through the air. It was small at first, almost lost in the noise. But it spread, shouting, whistling, chaos. Ceaușescu froze. His face twitched. Confusion turned to fear. "Stay calm," he shouted into the microphone, his voice cracking. "Stay calm, comrades." But no one listened. The crowd roared. The live broadcast suddenly cut off. The cameras tilted toward the sky, just as the masses surged forward. Inside the building, panic exploded. Ministers ran. Bodyguards shouted. Outside, protesters stormed the gates. For the first time in his reign, Nicolae Ceaușescu realized the truth. His people no longer feared him. The revolution had begun. By noon, the protesters had surrounded the Central Committee building. Inside, chaos reigned. Ceaușescu shouted orders, but no one obeyed. Gunfire echoed outside. Smoke filled the streets. The dictator's voice cracked with desperation as he screamed for his pilot. Moments later, a helicopter landed on the roof. Ceaușescu and his wife, Elena, were rushed aboard. As they lifted off, the crowd burst through the doors below. From the air, Bucharest looked like a war zone. Fires burning, flags waving, shouts of victory echoing through the city. Ceaușescu ordered the pilot to fly to Snagov, his private retreat. He believed loyal generals would still answer his call. But when he picked up the phone, there was only static. The army had abandoned him. Panicking, he ordered the helicopter west to a military garrison he thought was loyal. But the radio hissed with a chilling warning. All flights grounded. Any unauthorized aircraft will be shot down. Fuel was running low. The pilot, terrified, landed on a rural road. Ceaușescu and Elena jumped out, disappearing into the trees. For the first time in his life, the dictator of Romania was running. Not from foreign enemies, but from his own people. Hours later, a mechanic driving by saw two strangers waving frantically for help. He stopped. They climbed into his car, silent and tense. It took him a few minutes to realize who they were. He was driving Romania's dictator. They sat in silence, listening to the radio. Every station repeated the same words. Ceaușescu's regime has fallen. Desperate, they begged to be taken to safety. The mechanic brought them to an agricultural institute nearby, hoping to help. But the director, recognizing them, locked them in a room and called the police. Within minutes, soldiers surrounded the building. The man who once commanded a nation was now a prisoner. The new government, hastily formed by revolutionaries, wanted justice, fast. On the morning of December 25th, a military tribunal assembled at a small army base in Târgoviște. The trial began immediately. There were no lawyers, no appeals, no delays. The charges: genocide, corruption, and theft of the nation's wealth. Ceaușescu laughed, calling it a farce. "I am still the president of Romania," he shouted. Elena sneered at the judges, screaming, "How dare you judge us? You're all traitors." But the soldiers stood firm. They had seen the bodies, the starvation, the fear. The verdict came quickly, guilty on all counts. Sentenced death by firing squad. Effective immediately. The courtyard was silent except for the crunch of boots on snow. Ceaușescu and Elena were led outside. Both refused blindfolds. "Let us die together," he said softly. The soldiers nodded. They were tied to wooden posts. Elena cursed the soldiers to the very end. Ceaușescu began singing the Internationale, the anthem of the working class he once claimed to serve. Then came the command. A deafening burst of gunfire echoed through the courtyard. When the smoke cleared, the couple that had terrorized a nation lay still in the snow. Within hours, Romania's state broadcaster aired the footage. Millions watched in disbelief as the lifeless bodies of Nicolae and Elena Ceaușescu filled the screen. The tyrant who once demanded endless applause had met his end on live television. The next morning, Bucharest awoke to a new world. People danced in the streets. They cried, hugged strangers, and tore down portraits of their former leader. For the first time in decades, there were no slogans, no fear, only the sound of freedom. In the months that followed, Romania held its first free election since 1937. The iron grip of dictatorship was gone, replaced by fragile hope. It wasn't a perfect beginning, but it was a beginning nonetheless. Even today, the world remembers that day. The execution that ended a dictatorship live on camera. A moment that proved, no matter how powerful a ruler becomes, no one can outlive the truth. History is full of moments like this, when power collapses in an instant and the world witnesses it unfold in real time. If this story kept you watching until the end, make sure to subscribe for more true stories that changed the world forever. Because next time we'll uncover another moment caught on camera, one that shocked the world just as much but for completely different reasons.